We have made it to the final stretch run of the season. There are 20 games left. On the show today, we will discuss what was another bad loss to a bad team, but also Louis Guillorme and Trevor may have returned. What is left for this Mets team to do to put themselves over the top and win the division? We'll discuss all of that on this edition of Locked On Mets.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. It was another bad loss on Monday as the Mets really had some opportunities to get back into that game against the Cubs. Chris Bassitt did not look good early, and ultimately it's the same story we saw play out the last couple of series. Mets go up against the Pirates, a bad team, drop game one, they sweep a doubleheader. Mets go into Miami, lose game one, they score 20 runs over the final two games, win that series. So at this point, while I understand Mets fans being pissed off as you drive to work today, let's just put it into context, okay? If they find a way to win this series, this loss is okay. As I've been saying lately, as long as you keep winning series, I am fine. But it does suck when you lose the first game to a team who only has now, after winning this one, 59 wins on the season. It's pretty brutal. You're talking about a team that's still, 23 games under 500? Not a good sight. And Chris Bassitt, it just wasn't his day. You look at what he had done over the last couple of months. He had been so solid. You give him a free pass. I mean, sometimes it's just going to be an off night. And it was that for Bassitt. He walked a couple of leadoff batters. You'd never see that from him. 2 walks, 5 hits allowed, 5 earned runs. Doesn't make it out of the fourth inning. Only 2 strikeouts. Gave up a couple home runs. We haven't seen him give up long balls at all lately either. Just an awful night for him. So you give him a pass. Look at the bullpen. The Mets bullpen actually pitched really well. Tommy Hunter got 4 outs without giving up a hit or a walk. Trevor May came off the IL. We'll talk about him a little bit in the final segment, along with Louis Guillorme, but a solid 1-2-3 inning with 2 punch outs. Michael Givens, 2 strong innings with 5 strikeouts. He's been a lot better as of late. And Joely Rodriguez, solid inning with 2 strikeouts. So the pitching behind Bassitt was good. The lineup, though, atrocious. Look, there's been other games where I've talked about you go up against a starter and you say, wow, Patrick Corbin's been awful all year, but he actually had a good start against the Mets. Things like that. And say what you want about the Cubs pitchers tonight. I didn't see anything that jumped out that said, wow, this stuff is just amazing. And the Mets aren't finding their way through it. It's just... And they had their chances too. It's not like the Mets didn't have opportunities. They were 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. They left 10 on base. First inning of the game, you have Francisco Lindor gets a hit with 1 out. Jeff McNeil draws a walk. Pete Alonso ends up, grounded out, but Lindor was safe at third. Alonso beats it out. So you have 2 runners on. Vogelback walks, and you have the bases juiced. Mark Canha gets out. So that's one frustrating inning. And the one that really jumps out as we kind of go through the game, you do also have some traffic in the 4th inning for the Mets where they did score a run. James McCann was the only hitter to get an RBI in this game. McCann's been great lately. But really, to me, the only inning to really discuss where you think, like, wow, what a missed opportunity, that 8th. I mean, the 8th inning, Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, they both got hits. You're sitting there. Daniel Vogelback walks. Bases juice, nobody out. Mark Canha strikes out. Eduardo Escobar flies out. Shallow fly ball, not that deep. And Darren Ruff comes on as a pinch hitter. Now, before that also, I should mention, strange scenario where Michael Givens becomes a pinch runner. He had pitched obviously in the 7th and the 8th. A little bit of a loophole, if you want to call it that, where Buck Showalter was able to put him in to run for himself, essentially, to remove the designated hitter. This just saved the Terrence score for later if you needed him. It doesn't really mean too much. Basically, Buck Showalter's thinking is, hey, if we get a double, Michael Givens is a good enough athlete that he can score from first base. I think that's generally the idea here. With 2 runners in front of him, why put Terrence Gore behind a couple guys? He can't steal a base anyway. Whatever. To me, that's kind of a non-issue. But you get the Darren Ruff pinch hitting in that spot for Tyler Naquin to go, right on left. I don't have any problem with the move because if you put Mark Vientos up in that spot, you're talking a kid that's got 5 at bats at this stage of his career, going into the bottom of the 8th inning with the bases loaded and 2 outs. That's hard. I mean, Darren Ruff, the heartbeat's not going up in that moment. I mean, obviously he's really due, and I'm sure he's pressing a lot, and it looks like it when he's at the plate. But he actually didn't even have that bad of an at bat. If you look at it, he fouled off a couple of pitches straight back. He spit on a ball in the dirt, and then he put one in play. He didn't strike out. Just hit a liner to the right fielder, and you end up stranding all the runners. So to me, I think that I see fans freaking out about Ruff hitting that spot. I don't have a problem with it, but it does just continue to illuminate the issues we have seen with Vogelback and with Ruff, and even with Naquin to a certain extent. Naquin's had his moments lately, but that DH platoon that we were so excited about at the deadline, and which really did pay off in the first couple of weeks after it, has fallen flat. And it's just like I talked about on yesterday's show. It's too late to ask Mark Vientos to solve all your problems with 20 games left in the season. He just doesn't have time. It takes rookies a minute to adjust. You can't expect them to just parachute in and save the season. And it's not like the season needs saving either. There's 20 games left, and the Mets have won 89 games. It's just frustrating that so much was sent to San Francisco for Darren Ruff. And again, I'm not talking about JD Davis. I'm talking about the 3 pitching prospects. And it still bugs me that JD Davis got the 110 plate appearances from June on up until the deadline that could have gone to Vientos. And maybe at this stage, you either know that Vientos wasn't going to hack it, or who knows, maybe he had been so good in that 6-week sample size that you never trade for Daniel Vogelback, that you never trade for Darren Ruff, that you maybe have a completely different set of needs and the team could look entirely different. But you are where you are, and that to me still means that these veterans need to step up. And I even think with Louis Guillorme back, you could see some Eduardo Escobar at DH. That could be the solution. You get Guillorme's glove out there every day, or at least most days. And the way Escobar is hitting, maybe he just becomes the DH. I think when you get to a playoff roster, that could be the 9 you want to roll with. For now, though, they're going to keep doing what they've been doing, and hopefully it starts to net better results. But what I want to do in the next segment here, let's talk about where we are. There's 20 games left in this season, and as much as doom and gloom as we can propagate right now to that game, I do think there's still room for a ton of optimism, and I want to get to that in just a minute here. Before we do, though, betonline.net is your number one source for all of your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this week's upcoming games. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in the action. Bet online, where the game starts. The New York Mets have 20 games left this season. They are sitting at 89 wins. How many seasons have they had in their entire history since 1962 that have been better than this year? 86 Mets won 108 games. 88 Mets won 100 games. 69 Mets won 100 games. You have 85 Mets, 98 wins, 2006 and 99, both 97 win teams, 2000, a 94 win team, 1987, a 92-win team. 1990, a 91-win team. 2015, last time they won 90 games. This is already the best season they have had since 2015, and knowing there's still 20 games left to play with, it is better. Then you go to 84, a 90-win team, and then you're right here with 2022. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They're 2 wins away from a top 10 season in Mets history, and they got 20 to play with. If they go 500 from here on out, it's going to be easily a top 5 team in Mets history. So, as much as we want to look at the recent trends and you get frustrated when they lose a game like this, let's also look at what just happened the past week and the fact that every time we doubt this Mets team, they sweep a doubleheader and beat the Pirates in the series. We doubt them in Miami because they dropped the first one, and everyone, at least me, I know, and I'm sure a lot of you have years of evidence that playing baseball in Miami in September is a scary proposition. They make it out of that series with another victory. I'm not doubting this team. I'm not. And here they go against the Cubs and the Pirates. I still think they can go out this week and win 5 games out of 7. You do that, good week. You win 4 out of 7, maybe not so much, but I think the Mets are looking at a season that we're going to, regardless of what the final outcome is, remember pretty fondly. And I know that the last month has been frustrating. I mean, the Braves seem to win all the time, and the Mets, that division lead continues to dwindle, and you just wonder, can they hold on? But it's a playoff team, and you have to remember that as a Mets fan, you don't see playoff teams too often, and we hope and we expect that in the future, this team will be better than it has been, and this team will continue to be perennial playoff contenders. But you don't know that. And off the heels of recent history, to see them at 89 wins with 20 games left, and even though I hate let's look at the schedule, and we're going to point out that there's the series against the Brewers, and then there's a series against the Braves, and that's the last series against teams over 500. Aside from all of that, and obviously that's real, this is a Mets team that is still squarely on pace to have a 100-win season, of which they've only had 3 in franchise history. They win 101 games. If they go 12-8 over the final 20, 101-win season, second best record to only the 1986 Mets. Think there was points this year we wondered, could they rival the 86 Mets? Well, now you'd have to win out to have a better record than that 86 team. But could they win 101? Could they win 102? Could they win 103? I think they could. And we've talked about it, and again, not to get bogged down in the schedule, they got the Cubs, they got the Pirates, they got the Brewers, the Athletics, the Marlins, the Braves, then the Nats. There's no reason they can't win each of these series, and that's what I'm looking at more than anything. If they go out and they can win the 2 series this week, which now means winning the next 2 and then taking 3 or 4 from the Pirates, a 5-2 week, they'll be in good position. Their next week will be a Brewers Athletics week, and those are both on the road, so that's going to be a tough road trip. And then you get to come home for a little respite against the Marlins before you go to Atlanta, and you probably decide your season. But I think that personally, I look at where they are, and I try to take that zoomed out view at times when you get frustrated, because baseball is so much a day-to-day swing of emotions. I watched a video last night. I think I did retweet it, of this Braves fan who was just destroying Kenley Jansen, and rightfully so. The Braves had this miraculous comeback. Michael Harris hits 2 home runs in the final 2 innings. Robbie Grossman homers as well in the 9th. They battled from backs 6-1 to 7-6, and they look to steal a series against a good team in the Mariners. And Kenley Jansen comes out and gives up 2 home runs in that 9th inning. And all of a sudden, you go from this swing of emotions where the Braves would have cut the division lead back to a half game, and then it goes to a game and a half. And for a Braves fan, it's from cloud nine to misery zone. That's baseball. And anytime you look at that microscopic sample of one game like we could right now looking at the Monday night game, there's frustration. But if you take a step back and you reflect on the whole year, it's been such a fun ride. And to me, this is a team that deserves the support and the faith that they can pull things out. And regardless of if it is as a division winner or a wild card team, Jacob DeGron's about to take the ball on Tuesday night, and he'll be taking the ball in October for the first time since 2015. A once in a generation pitcher, probably a first ballot Hall of Famer with a Mets cap on, getting the chance to finally pitch in October again. And with that, absolutely anything is possible. So, this point, ride with your team, don't let go of the rope, and let's just see what happens. Let's have some fun over the last 3 weeks of the season here that we got, and let the cards fall where they may. But speaking of May, Trevor is back, as well as Louis Guillorme, which is why I'm supporting the Guillorme shirt today. Let's discuss that. We will get to in just a minute, but first, a quick word from our sponsors. Trevor May pitched tonight, 1-2-3 inning. Solid to see him back out there. He was obviously on the COVID IL. Unfortunately for him, just when he was getting his feet under him, to have to be away from the team and be throwing baseballs into a couch. But he is back. He looked pretty sharp. I think he is a key pitcher on this team. Right now, you're looking at Seth Lugo and Adam Ottavino as the key sediment to Edwin Diaz. It'd be nice to add a third one. Michael Givens has been good lately. No one else, though, is going to be trusting Michael Givens other than Buck Showalter. So we'll see how Givens continues to progress. But if Givens and May can pitch to the back of the baseball card, and you factor them in with the three guys you already have, this Mets bullpen actually looks a lot better than we may have expected. Not to mention you have Tyler McGill, who is working his way back, and the last I checked, is a retired every hitter he has faced in his rehab assignment. So you get him back in the mix, and I think the Mets might just have a pretty decent playoff bullpen. You factor that in with their rotation, and that is still the ceiling of this team. The question is, can they get enough offense? And here's Louis Guillorme to the rescue. And while Guillorme might not pack the biggest punch with his bat, he gives you that elite defensive third baseman, or if you want to put him there, even second base when Jeff McNeil might need a blow. That's going to be key down the stretch. I do believe that the Mets are going to try to get some of these guys days. And you could see Eduardo Escobar start at first base now if they want to, or Guillorme if they really want to get crazy with it. But you could see them play around some lineups where they get Pete off his feet without having to go to a Darren Ruff potentially. You could see Jeff McNeil getting a day with Guillorme out there. You could see Escobar getting some time off, but I think they want to keep him in the lineup right now because Eduardo is red hot. So the Mets might get creative, and that could mean Escobar being the DH. It could be, hey, let's get Lindor off of his feet through a grind of this season. You got a game every day this week. Maybe one of those games against the Pirates. Yeah, DH Lindor, you start Guillorme at shortstop. He just gives you that flexibility that a Devin Marrero just couldn't. So having him back, I think, is really critical. And personally, as I already alluded to earlier, I'd rather see Guillorme out there taking at bats right now than a lot of these guys. I mean, he can draw a walk as good as Vogelback, and Vogelback's not driving the baseball right now. And he also brings a glove into the picture. So not that you would obviously DH Guillorme, but you could DH Escobar. That is a viable solution to this team. It would make you a lot better when it comes to the defense because as much as Eduardo Escobar holds his own, he's still not a plus defender at third base. Guillorme is, and I think because he's swinging the bat well, he's an interesting option to maybe just take over as the DH. And this is a Mets team that can play around with lineups, but when you are in this race and it's down to the wire, I always like the idea that you trust the guys that got you there. And Darren Ruff didn't get you where you're at right now, and Daniel Vogelback didn't either, and Tyler Naquin did not. We'll see when Starling Marte returns. In the meantime, you might see more of Naquin. You also could potentially see Jeff McNeil back in the outfield a little bit, even though the Mets have strayed away from that. you're trying to win baseball games, that's another lineup that could work for the Mets. Put Jeff McNeil back out in left field. Throw Canna in right. You got Nemo in center. Put Guillorme at second. Keep Escobar at third. And when you got a righty on the mound, trust that Vogelback might eventually break out of this slump. But where the Mets are right now, I certainly want to see more of Guillorme than of Vogelback and Ruff, and again Naco into a certain extent. So this is going to be interesting to see how the Mets play it out. It's good that they're getting a little bit more whole. Now, the only people you're really waiting for off the IL at this stage, it's obviously Max Scherzer, Starling Marte. Those are the big ones. Tyler McGill as that little X factor out of the pen. And you get those three guys back, and hopefully there's no other injuries. Big knock on wood. And you can try to be as healthy and full as possible as you get into that series. I think that's the thing to me. If the Mets can be healthy and still holding a division lead when they play the Braves at the end of this month, I will feel absolutely fantastic, and you should as well. So, as I already alluded to before as well, have faith in this team. Let's see them bounce back. You feel pretty confident on Tuesday night with Jacob deGrom on the hill. They can even up this series. It's a rubber match against a bad Cubs team, and then you got 4 against the Pirates. So no reason to panic after just one loss. Anyway, that's going to be all for today's edition of Locked On Mets. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB, hosted by Paul Francis Sullivan. Locked On MLB is where you want to go to stay up to date with everything going on in Major League Baseball. Follow Locked On MLB wherever you get podcasts.